this challenging market, we really have to innovate. We really have to innovate. If not, we will literally be left behind. And this pandemic also have taught us about behavior of consumer, and what we used to think it is actually not so true. In this pandemic, there's a lot of experiment that we have done during these past 3 months. So it's going to be a challenging market still. It's not going to be normal anymore. So another thing that we have discussed is that there's really no playbook, standard playbook of how things is going to evolve. I think most importantly is, as market leaders, we need to constantly innovate and to be adaptable to change in order to succeed in this very challenging market.
My biggest takeaway today is it was just an eye-opener that there's no new playbook as such. I mean, COVID just happened, but things are still the same. You have to keep testing, learning, optimizing as you go along. There might be failures, but then you pick up and then you move. As I think Karthik mentioned, it's about progression versus perfection. So you keep progressing one way or the other. The second takeaway for me was there is a lot of emphasis on data. Everyone's really collecting as much data as possible to validate, to uncover insights. But it's also important to have a proper strategy around it and not just use the data that's on hand. Sometimes it can be misleading. It may not be the right, even the right data point for you sometimes. So it's just, I think, putting some principles in place and using data effectively.
Innovation is great, but it's also such a huge competitive differentiator now because everyone's on a very more level platform with the pandemic and the way that the marketplace is shaping. So we all have an ability, whether we're a small or large business, whether we're an online or offline, to use technology to innovate as a competitive edge. But close to that interest was the fact that in the top 5 challenges, innovation was also listed. So although it's a priority, I think we can all agree that it's a challenge. So how do we use technology to really pivot and make sure that we can make those innovations happen to keep us up to date with what customers are expecting from us now as well?
Change can only happen. It's not so much skills and tools, it's mindset. So I think the mindset is the first one which has to change. Still, too many people and leaders tend to be more comfortable with what is the past, despite everything that's changing around us. So I think this whole new way of life, which many others mentioned, trying and failing, etc., and learning is quite critical instead of being in the comfort of the old zone.
So I think for consumers, the trust with brands has to take it to a new level. From the consumer side, they require more, expect more from brands now. Especially one interesting point I learned from the session was consumers nowadays actually waiting to get promotional offers from brands. In the past, they may actually want to, just stay away from a lot of this kind of offers. But now, since most of the time they're staying at home, they're more open to actually approached by the brands if the offers are relevant to them. So I think on the brand side, the challenge will be how we can actually gain more understanding of our customers, right? So this also requires a more unified view of the individual users, understanding, what they want at the right timing and give them the right, promotional offer or information. because of the COVID, we have to redefine our touch points with our consumers. So traditionally, we may have some channels all the marketers have familiar with when we actually plan our marketing mix. But because of the COVID situation, the consumer behaviors have completely changed. And also they may create a new norm that may last for a longer term. So give an example, out of home used to be a very important media delivery. But now with most people staying at home, this priority may go even lower than some other channels like digital. So for the marketers, when we're thinking about the right marketing mix to create the reach and the frequency, we have to actually add into new channels to make up the mix from out of home, some other channels we might got missed since the COVID happened. So again, take Atomi as an example, because we're an AI-driven technology company. So by leveraging artificial intelligence, we're able to create the more personalized user experience. So which really set the foundation for creating the user loyalty. Yeah. So number 3, the takeaway I had was about innovation. So innovation is always been top of list for any marketers to know. But with the COVID situation, I think it's even become more important than ever. As a CMO, I think our challenge is also how to balance the quality and profitability also with creativities, right? So for my team, what I normally do is when we set the OKRs for my team, there should be a proper split between the must-have task versus the innovative initiatives. So that means like I give the freedom, the room for my team actually to spend time, budget, effort on the innovative stuff. So they don't have to feel like they can fail. It's okay to fail, at least you learn some learnings. So if my team actually rather stay in their comfort zone, say, oh, we have to deliver our business bottom line, I will go there to challenge them, to say, yeah, let's try out something different. We need to bring out some new way of thinking. So I think those are the top 3 takeaways from the roundtable. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the opportunity.